Since our founding, the hours we work, the tasks we perform, the services we provide, and above all, the way we provide these services, have all supported our singular mission, improving the quality of life of our people and those we serve. This is the most important differentiator of our company. It makes what we do unique. It is a source of pride and inspiration for all of us who work at Sodexo. Today, we take a step further towards our goal of improving quality of life by unifying the way we envision it and how we embed it into every aspect of our work. Following extensive research, we identified 6 dimensions known to affect quality of life on which our services have a direct impact. Ease and efficiency. Imagine a world where everything runs smoothly, whether dropping the kids off in the morning or heading to a meeting. Sodexo services open the doors to a world where you can devote your full attention to the task at hand, rather than being distracted by logistics. A world where you can maintain a work-life balance. Health and well-being. A truly healthy lifestyle requires an holistic approach. Maintaining overall physical well-being involves adopting healthy eating habits, having access to well-balanced meals, and maintaining regular physical activity. Recognition. Is recognition a powerful source of motivation? Yes. Being recognized for a job well done is a vital component of quality of life. Allowing individuals to select their own rewards based on their interests ensures that they feel genuinely appreciated. Physical environment. Did you know that the design of a space has a critical impact on our perception of personal safety and comfort? From optimal lighting to a reliable source of clean air to a safe building structure, purposefully designed and well-maintained environments bolster quality of life wherever you are. Social interaction. A friendly conversation over a cup of coffee. A lunchtime break with classmates. An afternoon companion for the elderly. Creating an atmosphere that is conducive to social interaction can produce very productive outcomes for individuals. Personal growth. Improving one's quality of life can start with taking a class, learning a new skill, or mastering an area of expertise. Whether developing a current path or changing directions altogether, building upon one's skill set creates the opportunity to achieve personal goals. These dimensions constitute our common definition of quality of life. We improve quality of life by having a positive impact on one, several, or all of these dimensions through the services we deliver. These dimensions are at the heart of the experience we provide to the individuals we serve day in and day out.
Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody have a good lunch? Feeling good? Ready to learn, right? Okay, my name is Mel, and I am the room moderator, so if you need anything, let me know. You are, by the way, in session B4, recruiting employees that share your pioneer values, okay? I walked around with the nursing evals, but if I missed you and you're a nurse, yeah, I'll come right to you and give you one. And then at the end, of course, I'll give you the code. Please turn your cell phones to off or vibrate. What else do I need to tell you? Have fun. Learn. Okay, so let me introduce Anna Ortigara and Sue Misiorski. All yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm gonna move this. This feels a little echoey. Okay, how's that? Better? Any better? Good. Okay, so you can hear me, but it's not echoing. All right. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is a large room. and I appreciate everybody coming forward so that we can get some good discussion and dialogue going this afternoon around a really challenging issue that people are facing. Recruiting people who are the best fit for the kind of heart work that we're all doing in our workplaces is not easy right now, and it's getting more and more complicated. So we're going to talk together this afternoon about what's going on in the context of the direct care workforce that might be contributing to it being so challenging, and then we're going to talk specifically about what we can do to recruit and hire people that genuinely share the Pioneer Network values. As our moderator so kindly said, my name is Sue Misiorski. I'm the Vice President of Workforce Innovations at a company called PHI. I work there with my partner here, Anna Ortigara, and she and I go out and help organizations implement culture change practices that improve quality of care and quality of jobs. Anna and I are both nurses and have been working in long-term care really for most of our careers. I started as a nursing assistant back in the late 70s, and I think Anna is in a similar...
Yep, I started as a patient care tech in a hospital while I was in nursing school, but I came in our field in 1980.
Yeah.
So hanging for a while.
We've been around for a while. PHI actually is an organization that is located in the Bronx. We're a not-for-profit, and we have two arms in our organization. We have a policy and research team and then a coaching and consulting team. And so we are actively working on shifting public policy in ways that would help recruitment and retention as well. Because clearly there's a context here that's outside of our control and a context that's inside of our control. I know that in the opening plenary this morning, you all got to see some video of our convener, Carter Catlett-Williams, introducing not some, but the Pioneer Network values. I have to say one of the most meaningful things in my career was being able to be present when the Pioneer Network had its gathering where we created these values. It was a wonderful, robust discussion. And 20 years ago, we birthed these values, and they still stand today. So Anna and I are just going to talk briefly about these values, and then we're going to do a little exercise together. So the first one is know each person. Well, that sounds pretty obvious, right? We're talking about deep knowing. Not your name, not where you're from. We're talking about really knowing you. When it comes to the elders, we're talking about knowing their full life story, their daily rhythm, what matters most to them. And making sure that we're honoring that in all that we do. And we need to know each employee in that same way as a full person and be treating them in as equally a person-centered way as we're asking them to treat the elders.
Absolutely, and then that goes right into the next one, which is each person can and does make a difference. And the reason, if you think about it, we're talking about each staff person, we're talking about each leader, we're talking about each elder, and what that relationship looks like with each other. And so at a very elemental level, we are saying everyone counts, and they count fully.
Amen. Hey. Relationship, relationship, relationship. I cannot emphasize that word enough. If you have a relational environment in your workplace that genuinely feels loving, that genuinely feels like family, your employees and your elders and your family members and visitors are far more likely to be thriving and to be happy in your organization than if the relationships are unhealthy and toxic. So we can always improve on this. You know, for years and years and years, there's been wars between 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7, because, you know, every shift works harder than the shift before. We have had wars between nursing and dietary, and you call dietary during lunch and they don't answer the phone and it makes everybody mad. And, you know, how come we're not transporting everybody to activities and time for them to start? And all of these things cause tension, right? And the more tension we have in the relationships, the more toxic the work environment.
And the next one, respond to spirit as well as mind and body. And when I think about elders I've been with in different settings and how they can express whether or not they have a purpose to wake up tomorrow or to get out of bed today, and to talk about their spiritual, not just their spiritual needs, but their spiritual selves, and then to also think about staff themselves. And again, everything we're talking about is about everybody, including families. So really responding and to that spirit as well as the mind and body.
Absolutely. Risk-taking is a normal part.
Oh, you got the good one.
Would you like to talk about that, Anna? I'm sensing that you would like to talk about that. Go for it.
Risk-taking is a normal part of life. Oh my gosh, does anyone want to just say, and yet we have this idea that if we just wrap people in bubble wrap and hermetically seal them, everyone will be safe and nobody will ever fall and no one will ever, and I have to say, a couple people who are here were on our trip yesterday to the Caledonian House to see their small homes. A couple people, yeah, and I just love the fact that in the morning, the first thing they say, well, guess what? One of our elders fell. She just fell 2 minutes ago. And so when we went and visited the home, I think the height of my day was half of us, so there were people in the home, and then the ambulance, the guys with the thing come, they get her. And as she's going out, she's sitting straight up, and she looks fabulous. And we all wave at her. And this elder waves back. I thought, she looks like she's going to an outing, you know? It's like, the good news is she doesn't have a fractured hip. All right. But I just think to myself, risk-taking, you know, when we took off that first alarm, when we took off those restraints, but it's much more than that, when we actually believe people have a right to be outside. I mean, these are hard things we've grappled with, and we're still grappling.
And how do you find the nurse that doesn't look at you and say, it's my license that's on the line when that person falls? So this matters in recruitment and how people approach the level of control they want to influence in their caregiving.
Absolutely. So put the person before the task, you know, and how much can we say about that? But when you see the person and not the task, then you're not probably in the shower with that person literally saying, help, they're killing me, because you're looking at that individual and saying, what does it take for them to be in well-being? So these sound so easy. Go ahead.
All elders are entitled to self-determination wherever they live.
Whoa.
And that's really a matter of, again, a lot of these cross over with the risk-taking, but are we really willing to fully listen to what the elder is telling us, verbally and non-verbally? Yep. Are we willing to have an elder that says, I know I'm supposed to be on a puree diet and I want potato chips? I actually was in a home last week where they had a diet order for one resident that was pureed plus potato chips.
Nice.
It's okay, you know?
And if she's doing okay with and I'd say if she's doing okay with the potato chips, could we ditch the first part of the order?
Does she really need the puree?
What did anyway, just really quick, community is the antidote to institutionalization, and that means the community within care homes, within the homes, outside of the homes. It's talking about community inside out and outside in, and holding on to the people's right to be in community.
So I have to tell you a quick little story about do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So here we are, the founding pioneers gathered around the table, creating these values. And Sister Pauline Breconier, who was at the time the administrator at the Teresian House in Albany, New York. So we had quite a chat about this one. Should it be do unto others as you would have, them do unto you, or should it be do unto others as they want done unto them? And Sister Pauline looks at us and she said, seriously? You people think you're going to rewrite the Bible?
All right.
So there you have it. Do unto others as you
won.
would have them do unto you, because no, we are not rewriting the Bible, sister.
Another one is promote the growth and development of all. And for sure here we're talking about the people who work in our settings and the elders who live there, but also the leaders and the families of those communities.
Absolutely. Shape and use the potential of the environment in all its aspects, physical, organizational, psychosocial, and spiritual. Is the home an environment that feels like home, or does it feel institutional and depressing and et cetera? And it has an impact on the spirit of the employee in the same way as it has an impact on the spirit of the elder.
And can I also say, I believe that it's the spirit. Also, an environment that's truly normal and an environment that really supports real normal living, I think it helps staff to see the world in a different way as well. And when you're putting new practices in place, a physical environment, I always say it's only one of the three legs of the stool, but it is one of the legs, and it really does support a different way of being. So,
absolutely.
Just real quick, practice self-examination, searching for new creativity and opportunities for doing better. Heck yeah. We are learning organizations. We've got to be learning organizations and willing and not even know what we need to learn until we're already experiencing the transformation, and from that we can understand what we yet need to learn to be able to go forward.
Recognize that culture change and transformation are not destinations but a journey, always a work in progress.
Okay.
So we're looking for the employee that loves to learn, that loves to grow, that understands that just because you just had a deficiency-free survey doesn't mean that there isn't anything we could be doing better, right?
Right.
So it's that person that wants to keep helping you move that envelope forward. So what we'd like you to do now is just turn to the person next to you and just for a couple of minutes talk about how could those values inform recruitment and retention of staff. How could these inform your recruitment? 2 minutes.
And go, why, you want to put it back on the values?
Yeah. So what were some of your thoughts about this?
It's a monumental task. When it comes to new employees, it just seems like a monumental task when you look at this. I was just sharing with her that, let's just say, I do part of new employee orientation, and you have this group of maybe a dozen people in front of you, and one of them has heard of culture change. One of them. So when you think about what you want to share with them, it just seems monumental.
I hear you. It's not easy. It's not easy, for sure. For sure, it's not easy. I happen to have the pleasure of having lunch with Gary today, and one of the things he said was that when he leads the new employee orientation, he talks about, things like spirituality, palliative care, culture change, and he said, he'll look around this U-shaped table and two people will have their head down asleep on the table. And, when that happens, right? That happens. And the onus is on us to say, okay, if this is how we're starting, I'm not sure we're going too uphill from here, right? So we want to always hire for character and train for skill. Hire for character, train for skill. We can teach you any skill, but we aren't going to change your fundamental character. That's not a realistic expectation of an employer. Other comments that you had from your discussion? Yes?
These just automatically become your interview questions. You say, let me read you this statement. What does it mean to you?
Okay.
Well, my voice carries. I was just saying that these statements become your interviewing questions. You read the statement to the candidate and say, what does this mean to you?
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. We're going to show you some interview questions that take you in this path. You could be as direct as to just take these values and even say, you know, just take a look at these for a moment. Which one of these really stands out for you and why? You know, just simple things. How many of you have your own value statement for your organization? Okay, most of you do. So you would want to use that value statement, obviously, and not the Pioneer Network value statement. You want people that are modeling your core values. One of the primary reasons that people quit is because the values that the organizations espouse and proclaim as values is not what they feel are alive in the daily, day-to-day in the organization when they get there. So for example, if you have as a value teamwork, and when I come to work for you, there ain't no teamwork, I'm not feeling it. So the expectation that I had as a new employee based on your values isn't matching what I'm experiencing, and that will absolutely cause people to head out. I'm switching to you.
Okay, great. And so what I want to do is, we're hoping, thanks. We're hoping that you'll keep the Pioneer Network values in mind. We're going to come back to them actually in a little while and use them again. But before we do that, we really want to just talk about a couple of demographics because, so how many of you are really having a challenge hiring people? Maybe
Probably
even
why you picked this session, huh?
Maybe even more than retaining them. Just finding people and bringing them in. You say, once they're there, actually, how many of you say, actually, our retention rate is pretty good? Anybody? Yeah, I talked to some people before, but the sheer challenge of finding individuals, we are at a place that feels like we really haven't been before, at least not to this degree. So just some simple demographics. This is going to be quick, but we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. 4.5 million nursing assistants, home care aides, and personal care aides are caring for over 8 million older adults and people with disability. This is a huge workforce. There are more jobs in our field coming into being than any other single area of work. So this is a rapidly growing workforce. You know, so the fastest growing among them is home care aides, even much more than residential-based personal care assistants or nursing assistants. They're in the community, they're providing private care in homes, private homes, and a lot of our demographics don't even necessarily reflect the underground workforce, or they call it the gray workforce, which really comes very prominent for me in our day of talking about immigration and illegal immigrants. And these issues are deeply tied together in terms of thinking about who is caring for our aging nation. So home care workers on average are earning about $10 an hour. That comes out to about $13,300 a year. Nursing assistants in nursing homes are earning more than that. It's more on average $12 an hour, and those are national numbers. So within that, there is a lot of variation. And we do know that low wages, insufficient training, and people tell us all the time they don't have opportunities for advancement. And those are reasons why people get out and they leave our field. And sometimes they're leaving at a more rapid rate even than they're coming in. Couple more slides on demographics. And what just says, guess what? I know you're surprised. The workers are these are home care workers, overwhelmingly female. You knew that. The interesting thing here is, though, if you look at the average age, it's between 45 and 55 for home care workers. So that's a fairly, well, I am 61, so I guess it's a youngin'. But I mean, if you think about that in terms of age range, that's a fairly old average age for this work. We also want to just say that when you look at ethnicity, race, status, certainly there's some interesting numbers there. All of this data is on our website. It can be downloaded. If this is information, just go to phinational.org. We have amazing reports that have done deep dive on workforce and demographics. And so this is about home care. I also want to say future demand. The future demand, 600,000 new jobs are needed. We need positions, and that's by 2024. And so you can see this huge home care workers, registered nurses, fast food preparers, but now we look at the nursing assistants. Notice the difference in age.
Much younger.
Much younger. So the median is from 25 to 34, and that's the median age of CNAs compared to home care workers. So that's a little bit different, but still overwhelmingly female. We still see the breakdown, the ethnicity, which there's pretty good reflection with the home care workers. But we only need another about 60,000 staff to work in long-term care, in residential long-term care versus home care. So when you look at the future of services, home care is absolutely the one with the most critical need. This is the one I wanted to put up before we leave the demographics, though. So to me, this is a kind of a heartbreaking slide. It says that this is the percentage of workers, full-time employees as home care workers, CNAs, who are using means-tested public assistance. So 33% of the workers who are full-time home care, long-term care workers, direct care workers, are getting food and nutrition subsidies. 39% are on Medicaid, and then about, oh, my value, hold on. Where did my value go? I have it on my notes, though. It is 49%, sorry, 49%. I don't know how that disappeared. 49% are getting any public assistance. So that includes child care subsidies, housing subsidies, really a combination of things. And I guess I want to put this up here because our talk today is not just about wages. In fact, it's not our biggest thrust, but I would be remiss to go forward and not say money is part of the issue. And how do we feel about people working full-time jobs and more than full-time jobs and being in a position to need public assistance for multiple reasons? So I just want to put it out there because if we're going to have an honest talk about this issue, I think we have to be willing to put that in the hopper as well. So what I would like to do is I'd like to ask us to, these are the reports that PHI put together. They're downloadable from our website, so just want to show those to you. We work with amazing people. Sue mentioned, but part of our organization are policy people who are doing deep dives around direct care worker jobs. So just to say. So we want to say recruitment and retention. Let's get serious, darn it. And so what I want you to do is, I want you to think for a minute, and I want you to just take one Pioneer Network value. So I'm going to put those values back up there in a second. What I want you to do is to say, just pick one. What would attributes or characteristics look like in a person if they were reflecting that value? So this is a quick exercise, but I want you to just think about it. So here you go. Do you got the question? Pick one.
So I'm gonna be a little more directive, if that's okay.
Sure.
So if you go back to the values, this table's going to know each person.
You are being directive.
I am being
All right.
directive, that which I teach people not to do. Each person can and does make a difference. Relationship is the fundamental building block. Respond to spirit, this table. Risk-taking, this table. Person before task, this table. All elders are entitled to self-determination. Community is the antidote. And let's take practice self-examination here. And did I get you guys promote the growth and development of all? One person all by herself. She's going to come over here. Does every table, did I get you guys? Okay, so if you talk as a table, what characteristics would you look for that value in an interview? What do you want to see?
And we're going to give you a serious 5 minutes because we think it takes that much conversation. So 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, welcome back, welcome back. So what I'd like to do is, which table is willing to talk just a little bit about what their discussion was, some of the characteristics or attributes that you came up with? Who wants to go first? Come on. I know you want the mic, it's like Oprah. Anybody? You're in Chicago. Come on, who has something they'd like to say?
Gary's got his hand up.
No, I didn't. I just said, I can't believe that was 5 minutes because we didn't get all the way around.
Okay, Michelle's table.
Here you go.
So ours wasn't as, we had risk-taking, and it wasn't so much attributes as how would you answer the question, and we used the example that Sue gave. If an elder is on a puree diet and wants to eat potato chips, how would you handle that? And the response to that kind of a question is what we would be looking for.
And that starts to really get at values-based interviewing, right? So we're really making that connection, and we're going to talk more about that. But into the interview itself, really building that value into the questions and the scenarios you ask. Beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else?
Anytime you pose a situation to a person that you're interviewing and ask, how would you respond in that situation? Right. You're getting at their values will come out in how they respond to that. So those Absolutely. Are great kinds of questions.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Something in your conversation. I'm sorry?
Give me an example.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We said, give me an example of, ours was relationship is fundamental building block, and what is an example you've recently experienced? That behavioral based.
To building a relationship. Absolutely. So can you give me an example of that? And again, really helping support them to share their experience. And in that experience, you hear what's important to them. And beautiful, nice. Anybody else? Some of your conversation. Yeah, here. I'm coming.
We were the one about kind of self-determination. And so on an interview question, you could say, how would you handle a situation where a resident says, I don't want to take a bath or shower, and they're starting to strike at you? So you would look. No, go ahead. So you would look at
a great
So you would
question.
look at answers like, well, gee, I'd just go get somebody else and we'd make it happen. But you're trying to get into their respect, communication with others, and honoring resident choice.
So you're really getting that opportunity to hear them, to hear their thoughts, and let them put it in their own words to really be able to describe that. Beautiful.
I do want to play devil's advocate just for a moment, lest we let every applicant walk out the door, not passing our values interview. I do want to say that you start there, and if the person says, I would come back later, or I would just keep trying to get them to take the shower, then we need to ask, tell me why that's the approach you would take. Because if they're coming to you from a traditional nursing home where they were expected to give that shower no matter what, they won't understand that your expectation is different, and you could be losing a good person. So I just want to be careful here that we're not giving you the impression that you don't need to dig a little deeper sometimes. you know?
I'd even argue that if they said, well, I would make sure that I just did it. I'd want to know more about that too, because maybe they're coming from a place where if they did not do that shower, they were in trouble.
They got written up
Yeah.
for not giving the shower. It's every place is just very different.
Not everyone has spent the last 20 years at the Pioneer Network Conference. Just saying.
Actually, that happened to me. I did admissions and social services, and I would often have aides come to me and say, can you go talk to Reba? She will not take a bath, and I'm so scared. She's not had a bath in 2 weeks. Will you go talk to her? Just scared to death. And that's actually happened more than once. And then I'll go talk to the resident, and if they don't want to, I would just document it and talk to them. But usually it was a matter of they were just too tired, it wore them out. They were
But Lisa, you're bringing up a really good point, and that is that they did not feel, that direct care worker did not feel comfortable saying that she does not want that. They needed someone to okay that. And that's powerful, because that says something about a culture, right? How about one more answer? One more. Someone you're dying to say something, I know. Tell us your name again. Julie.
Yes, I'm Julie. We had put person before task, and when discussing that, some of the qualities that came up that we would look for and values were compassion, empathy, patience, and kindness. Put person before task, a scenario that we discussed was going into a resident room. It's time for them to either go to a meal or have a shower, and you see that they're upset. So how do you handle that? Do you look at the task and say, okay, I'm on a schedule, I need to get them where they need to be? Or just take a few minutes and say, I see you're upset. Is there anything I can do for you? Do you need me to get you anything? And just showing a little bit of compassion and acknowledging that they're upset is a way, I guess, to put person before task. Now, how would you see this in someone? We all agreed it's something that could probably be faked pretty easy if you know someone's watching you or you're watching them. So we did have the idea of possibly putting them with the residents. Can you sit in the dining room for a few minutes until I'm ready for you, to see if a situation comes up, how they respond naturally. Would they naturally go and speak to someone and see if they could assist, or would they ignore it and play on their phones? So
really having the thank you so much. Having the opportunity for them to just be with elders and see how they respond to those elders. Julie, beautiful. Nice.
Great suggestions.
So, thank you so much. And I'm handing it to Sue.
Where's our little...
I don't know. Where is that clicker?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
See what happens when we wander the room?
Here you go.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So, it seems like there's always enough time to do it over, and there's never enough time to hire correctly in the first place. So what do I mean by that? We need to take time up front to impart the right impression on behalf of our organization, and to really try to get to know the person who's before us. And what happens is that the more desperate we are to hire somebody, the more we just skip right to when can you start, right? And we're shooting ourselves in the foot, because what happens when we hire the wrong person? First of all, they don't end up staying. Either we have to terminate them or they terminate themselves. We end up with dissatisfaction amongst the resident population, and we have low morale amongst the employees, who, by the way, really, how many times have you heard employees say, "What were you thinking when you hired that person? Really, what were you thinking?" And so what we want to impart is that the time you spend up front is critical. So panic hiring is absolutely a huge problem. So here's what happens in this vicious cycle of panic hiring. You have only one applicant. I see you shaking your heads. You have only one applicant. They are clearly less than your first choice. But you only have one applicant and you've got a few vacancies. So you decide to give them a chance. And maybe this will turn out better than you think. So you lacking options, you hire the person anyway. Well, guess what? No miracle occurred. And the candidate is now not performing to standards. And the tenured employees who are your backbone are irritated with you that you hired that person in the first place. So the next thing you know, you have to let that candidate go that you really didn't want to hire in the first place, and your tenured staff are now again working short and their frustration increases. So the impact of this cycle on morale is significant, and it damages the relationship between the employees and their supervisors because they don't understand why we can't find the right person. They really don't understand why are we not finding the right person. And so they begin to lose belief in us, in our ability to find the right people, and they don't know how much longer they can handle managing the shortages. So you get somebody in the door. Let's suppose you successfully recruited. What matters most to them to make them stay? So Christine Bishop did some research that was published in the Gerontologist, and what she found is that the top drivers of employee satisfaction are, guess what? Wages and benefits. How many times have we heard people say, well, pay really isn't that important? That person probably wasn't living on $12 an hour. Okay? It's important and it matters. It matters. The job demands. What is your CNA to resident ratio? If I come to work for you and the workload is undoable, it's overwhelming, I'm not going to be able to stay because I feel like I'm compromising my values in what I believe is good care because the ratio is so challenging. And there's no magic number, by the way, for ratio. It depends on the complexity of the people that are in their care. When the more complex the elders are, then the more staff you need. And that's unique to each organization. So if you were to say to me, well, what should the ratio be? There isn't a magic answer, but I will say that if you are a skilled nursing home and you have a ratio that's 1 to 10 or higher, you don't have enough staff. I'm just gonna say that. Because, you know, it matters and people will quit. Feeling respected, feeling valued, and their relationship with their supervisor are the remaining factors in people's decision to stay, and they're all related. Because who do you feel respected by? Who do you feel valued by? Is your supervisor. We had a session this morning, and some of the nursing assistants were talking, 2 of them are in the room now, we're talking about what qualities they most appreciate in their supervisor, and they said that they really appreciate a supervisor who offers genuine guidance as opposed to telling, but coaching and guiding. And one of the things they appreciate least in a supervisor is favoritism. And so I thought that was helpful to hear them say that. So for nurses, who we also need, and we're also trying to recruit and keep, it's important to understand that what really matters to them is the level of quality of care and service that the organization provides. Do they genuinely believe it's a level of quality that meets their personal standard? Let's see, am I still? So, quick wins. So, I would get a focus group together with your staff from all departments and small focus groups, and just ask open, curious questions about what their experience is and in working there, and be genuinely open to whatever they say and appreciate it, even if it's hard to hear. So you want to ask your own employees, please tell me what attracted you to work here. Why did you apply? Learn what that was and do more of it. Leverage it, okay? Get curious about why do you stay? Every organization has this anchor core group of tenured employees in every department. What is it that keeps you here? And do more of it. Get curious about why people leave. Ask them, what is your understanding of why people aren't staying? They may tell you things that the person who left didn't feel they could say. I'm sure you all do exit interviews and ask, why have you made this decision to leave? Most people say something like, well, it's my child care, or, they don't often feel comfortable saying it's you. And I don't think we should expect them to feel necessarily comfortable saying that, right? So the people who stay, they may know. And if we ask, they may tell us. And you want to always be building on what works by doing more of it, and ask your staff, what do you think we need to do? We're really struggling. We're not getting enough applicants in. We have these vacancies. It's causing you to work harder. We want to fix this. What are your ideas? Get them involved. I already said hire for character, train for skill. I cannot emphasize that enough. And again, to reiterate, don't be too quick to unfairly judge a person's character. People come in with their own personal style. You may have the quiet, shyer person who, when you ask them a question, may not freely overly share. And the onus then is on us to notice their discomfort and make them feel more comfortable, right? So how do you make a person feel more comfortable? When they feel uncomfortable, you back off. Instead of pushing harder, you rock out and back off and just kind of chit-chat a little bit and get some back and forth relationship going, right? You can tell them a little bit more about yourself, tell them a little bit more about your organization, and then you rock back in so that you're doing whatever you can to help them feel a higher level of safety and a higher level of comfort in that interview. When you get an answer that kind of makes you go, huh, that was not the answer I was looking for, get even more curious. Well, tell me what you meant by that. And be sure you don't make a face, because that's just going to shut the person down. So just be very careful with your body language, and just tell me what you mean by that. That's interesting, right? And I have been very surprised sometimes by the more I learn from somebody, what sounded really goofy when it first came out actually made perfect sense after they had the chance to explain it, and it was actually a good answer. But if I hadn't taken the time to go a little deeper, I probably would have just said, oh, this is not gonna work, right? So we wanna make sure that we have enough time in that process to figure this all out. At PHI, we have a home care agency called Cooperative Home Care Associates. It's the largest worker-owned home care agency in the United States. We employ 2,000 home care workers. They serve individuals living in the greater Bronx area. This is the 6-step hiring process that we use, and we bypass it under no circumstance. This makes a huge difference, but here's what it means. It's going to take you 2 weeks to hire somebody. They don't get to start this afternoon at 3 o'clock. You have to be willing to make this wait. Yes?
So I work for a health system. We also have a lengthy hiring process.
You do, okay.
And what our team members say is, I work for a health system that has a lengthy hiring process, and what our teammates say to us is, because our process is so lengthy, we miss out on good candidates because our communities in the area have already hired the person. So if they don't have a lengthy process and somebody's looking for a job and they need it now, they'll go to another community.
Interesting.
So it's a challenge.
So how have you responded to that?
I'm not in HR, or our talent recruitment center, but I think we know we have a process, and we say you have to go through the process.
Yep.
We really don't make exceptions.
Yeah. And have you been able to keep up with your openings, sticking to your policy here?
We definitely have openings.
Yep.
For nursing and CNA. So I don't know that we have a good answer. I think we're still struggling with it.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. There's always a downside, you know? There's always a downside to something. But here's what happens here. So we provide an informational session in the community. We go to churches, we go to the Y, we go to all different places in the community where people gather. And we hold informational sessions about what this work is. We run our own home care aide training program, so we don't necessarily hire people that are already certified. We are hiring you into a training program, and we actually pay people while they're going through the training. So why do we ask them to attend an informational session? We want you to understand what the job actually is, so that you don't start and 2 days later say, I didn't realize I was going to have to do that. This is not for me. We want to head that off at the pass, and we want to make sure that people understand both the beauty of direct care work and what's harder about direct care work, so that they're coming in with a keen understanding. After they attend the informational session, we give them our phone number, and we ask them to call us and schedule an interview. We do not call them. Why?
Because if they're really interested, they're going to call.
If they're really interested, they're going to call, and we want to see their level of responsibility. Okay? We want to see their level of responsibility. For some individuals that we're hiring, this is literally their first job. And we don't know what their level of professionalism is, right? So if they have the wherewithal to take the responsibility to call us back, that's a very positive sign that we're on the road to something good. Then they come in for an individual interview. If they pass the individual interview process and we mutually agree that we're a fit, and I want to say that's important, mutually agree, because, you know, there are some individuals, for example, who may work better in a traditional nursing home instead of a household model. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be a good CNA. It just means that you might not be the best match for each other, right? And we want them to have the chance to explore us at the same time that we're exploring with them. If we both agree we want to keep moving forward, the next step is the drug test and criminal background check. And then they meet with a job counselor. At this point, you're hired, and you're going to meet with a job counselor. And what this job counselor does is they meet with each individual employee, and they talk with them about what are your barriers to successful employment. And they ask them questions about their life, about their transportation, et cetera. And if there's a situation where this individual does qualify for public assistance, our job counselors will match the number of hours that they can work with the maximum level of benefits that they can get. Now, would we like to need to do that? No, we would like to be able to pay enough that you don't qualify for public assistance. That is absolutely our goal. Hands down, that is our goal. And our policy department is working hard on that. In the meantime, there's reality. And reality is that our home care workforce in New York City usually does qualify for public assistance at the same time that they're working. And so our job counselors make sure that we're honoring that and maximizing their overall compensation package in that way. So once that's done, they start their training, and they're off and running. And this process, again, can take about 2 weeks, but our retention rate is significant. It is absolutely significant. And it's really been a wonderful process. So how do you find these people? Want you to do values-based interviewing. You guys did a great job in that opening exercise about exploring questions that get at a person's core values. So a typical interview in a place that's really wanting you to start like tomorrow or maybe even this afternoon might say, tell me why you want to be a CNA. Everybody's going to say, because I want to help people. Right? Well, what hours and shifts are you available? Oh, I'm available 7 to 3. Well, are you certified? Here's my certificate. Do you have reliable transportation? Yes, ma'am. Okay, when can you start? You're hired. Right? That's the reality of what's happening in the world right now in that panic hiring cycle. So instead, a values-based interview is asking behavioral questions, which are, again, those what would you do in this situation? If you log on to the handouts for the conference, there is a handout for this session that's a whole page of interview questions that are values-based interview questions that we encourage you to take a look at. It's a Word document. You can make your own edits and change the questions up any way you want. So instead of saying, tell me why you want to be a direct care worker and getting the standard answer, we're going to say, please describe an experience in your life that has led you to care about elders. Do you see the difference in the question? You're going to get a much richer answer with the second question. Tell me about a time you disagreed with a coworker or a supervisor. I don't care if it was at McDonald's. It doesn't matter. You know, tell me about a time when you had a disagreement. How did you handle it? You can learn a lot from that. Describe a situation in the past where you exhibited professionalism in your work. This is helping you learn what does it mean to that person to be professional, right? So when we ask questions like that, we're getting at the person's character, and you're also building relationship in the process. because the answers cannot be offered in yes or no questions. These are all open, curious questions that really require thoughtfulness and dialogue between you and the person that you're interviewing. Skip it? Okay. All right.
We have a lot of content to get to you, so.
All right. Is this?
Yeah, you can go ahead and do
All
this
right.
and we'll
This
switch
is
over.
my last thing, and then I'm switching to Anna here. I love this practice. You give every employee a business card with your organization's name on it. I give it to family members, give it to residents. Everybody has a job to recruit. Anywhere they go, and they see a person that has the characteristics of a good service. If I'm shopping at Macy's and the person who helped me and waited on me was a kind, caring, good customer service person, I can look at them and say, you know what, you have excellent customer service. Have you ever thought about getting into healthcare? You would make a great employee at my workplace. Recruit. Tell them what you see in them. So that person will write their name on that business card and give it to that person that they're trying to recruit. When that person comes into your organization to apply for a job, they bring that business card with that person's name on it, and that person is rewarded. Maybe they get a gift card. Maybe they get some PTO. You know, whatever your situation is able to be, that person gets rewarded for participating in recruitment. And I would say to you that this is a great way to get past recycling all the same people. So if I quit Gary's place and I go work at Stephanie's, we haven't recruited any new people into this field. That doesn't help us with the worker shortage that we're facing overall because we're recycling the same people. But if I do this and I'm reaching into a whole new pool of workers, now we're adding to the direct care, the ability of direct care workers as a whole.
We actually do this, and if you make a referral, it used to be that we would hold out for like 90 days to make sure that they would make the 90-day mark. We stopped that, so their first month it's $365 for a year. So every month that shows up on their check, we have one employee that has referred 7 people. She's getting a nice little chunk of change, and they also get to wear a name badge that says, I referred. And so then we can go up to them and say, hey, great job, how many people? And can you point out the person that you referred, because we want to go thank them.
Love that. Thank you for sharing.
Talk about closing the loop. Yeah, and I love that, not making people wait for 3 months to have that bonus, but to really acknowledge. So just a little bit more about interviewing, peer-to-peer interviewing. Sue already said it earlier. You know, people will say to you, why did you hire her? I worked with her over there. I could have told you. And that's insane. Why aren't we having people interview the people that they're going to work with? And we recognize it's going to be multi-tiered, generally speaking. They're going through the HR department. You're doing certain screening first. But then if they're going to work with a team of people, oh my gosh, if they have an opportunity to interview people and say, we want this person to come, where's their investment in that person? Hi. They want that person to succeed versus that person just kind of showing up. So how many people in the room do that? You do peer interviewing. I see hands, yes. So what do you think the impact of it is? Anybody? I mean, have you seen an impact of people actually doing peer hiring? Anybody? Do you think it impacts retention? You're going, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times it's outside the HR role, and they have a different, more global perspective than we do as HR people.
Absolutely. And I mean, they certainly know the job, right? It just also builds real investment in individuals. And then the more you're doing a deep dive on culture change as you move to teams, and if you move to self-organized teams, then I think their responsibility for hiring just keeps going up and up and up. So that really, literally, that team has real power around that. But even if if you're not moving to self-organized teams, still, the team having input is going to be a winner. I love the next one. Uh-oh, where's my switcher? Give me a switch. Thanks. And it's this one. So this is my favorite because how many of you right now are the residents in your setting involved in interviewing new staff? Okay, see, right down the middle. We got 3 down the middle and 1 over there. And I've had an opportunity to work with organizations that are doing this. I was in a home not that long ago, and there was a lady on a resident who was part of this resident hiring team, and they had gone through training that, questions, and as residents, they can kind of ask anything versus HR, which cannot just ask anything. It's different. I'm saying that because, so this one woman, I met her, and her name was Margaret, and I said, Margaret, I think it's so terrific that you're on the hiring team. And she said, well, this was in a fairly farm town, rural area of Illinois. And she said, well, I was the loan officer at the bank. I made decisions on all these farmers getting loans. I think I can interview people. And I don't think I was being, talking down to her. I would like to think I wasn't, but I just love that. It's like we are not even using the resources of the individuals who are in our homes. I was like, I guess you can. She's like, honey, these farmers would be nothing without me. I was like, okay. So I want to just bring that up. And obviously, residents might want to volunteer, and then you can have them do it for a while and rotate, and if they enjoy it, and really build it into your hiring process. These are just some ideas. And again, the handout was on the website as well. Couple things, you want to really develop relationships with those local high schools, vocational schools, and deeply. And I think we want them to be two-way. So it is going over there and doing a job fair or whatever, but when we offer our own skills and go over and do education and really do support, so it's two-way, that really builds a relationship in an ongoing way with those schools. We want to make sure that we are active at industry conferences. I will say, so we had an opportunity this morning to have 4 different direct care workers on a panel that Sue led. Yesterday, when we went over to the Caledonian House, the care partners, staff were the people who were leading the tour. Well, they were involved in the tours, but they came back and did a panel. They were explaining about their jobs. How powerful is that? When direct care workers not only come to a conference like this, but present at a conference like that, I believe that changes their whole relationship with you as the employer in terms of being invested and feeling valued and supported. Okay, online job boards, make sure that we're really utilizing professional association websites. I love in LinkedIn and Indeed.com. I'm sure you all use Indeed. It's amazing. That's just... all of those things we knew 10 years ago about recruiting is dead as we find this maximum on web-based resources.
Anna, I just want to add one thing. So one of the things that we do in our consultation when employers are having a hard time recruiting is we look at your website. And I have to say that I've seen a lot of really dated websites. So for example, if you have a careers page on your website and you post a job that's been posted for the last 9 months, is it still unfilled? And if it is still unfilled, I am not applying for it. I'm just saying. So you want to take a look. Just pretend like you don't work at your workplace.
Make it sexy.
Literally pretend you don't work at your workplace, and you're looking at your website as if you're a potential employee. How hard is it to find the open jobs on your website? Are those jobs current? And is it written in language that's values-based that would appeal to somebody who's a mission-driven individual? Absolutely. And those kinds of things matter because in today's environment, with technology being what it is, people make their decision in about 3 seconds about whether they're going to apply at your place or they're going to somebody else's website that was better.
Absolutely. And just to say another thing about that, at Caledonian House, the project that was presenting it was a site. When we did those job fairs, we had unbelievable reception. The first job fair, we had 35 people come to that job fair, and the second one about 20. And I really am convinced it was all word of mouth. It was Indeed.com, but it was Facebook. CNA Facebook pages that tell other CNAs about jobs, it was all over the place. So many people came in and said, we learned about it because of this Facebook page or this Facebook page. And maybe you're all going, well, of course, I knew that, but I didn't know that. It just feels like it's a whole nother world of ways of spreading. I want to say one other thing about the internships. I've worked with a couple organizations now in terms of getting people, not so much maybe nursing assistants, but other staff, and that is, if you can partner with a local school, does anyone doing music and memory? Okay, so are you partnering with the school and then partnering with elders to create the playlists and all? That is such a positive, warm, exciting way to involve students in your own home because it's around something that's amazing and glorious. And when they see the response of elders to the music, so I'm just saying, finding really positive opportunities for students to become involved, clearly that builds their vision about what we do, what it is. I want to talk about this. I won't spend more than 8 minutes, but I'm doing it. So if you don't do anything, do this other stuff, yeah. But if you don't do anything else in relationship to retention, peer mentoring, it's crazy. And not just like you hook somebody up with somebody who's experienced. It's not just like, oh yeah, we're going to put them with Stephanie. We're all picking on Stephanie because we all know your name now. So no, just kidding. But hooking them up with Stephanie because she's worked here for 15 years and she's the best CNA we got. And she'll show Amy how to do it right. No. You have to take very seriously the idea of a peer mentoring program, and that's a group we work with down in Park Springs, Stone Mountain, Georgia, and that's at their education for the new households. And actually, Jeff took that picture. I stole it from him. But great group of people. Here's what I want to say. When you start to think about it, how are we setting that first 90 days up for maximum success? Because we know it's that first 30 days, it's that first week, that first 30 days, that first 90 days. And that's what's going to make the difference between somebody staying and becoming a part of your organization or not. People need feedback. People need to know how they belong and what's expected of them. When you think back on the Gallup work, they talked about the number one thing successful employees say they get is they know what's expected of them at work. And I would challenge us to say, new employees in that first couple of weeks, I think half the time they don't know what's expected of them. It's just not a real clear picture. So we want to make sure, we're not just throwing people in at any cost, that they have excellent initial mentoring. I'm not going to do this exercise. I want you to just think about this. What do staff tell you it's like about being new? When you talk to staff, what do they say being new is like? Anybody want to throw it out? In your own organization, do you get feedback about what people say it's like to be new? Go ahead, yell it out. Yes? Okay, I knew they weren't going to make it. Right. 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 So the expectation of failure versus the expectation of success. And then even talking about people and saying, I knew she wasn't going to last. So people who are new are living with maybe the expectation that you're gonna fail until you prove you can stay versus the opposite. So
Anna, can I just interject something really quickly? I so appreciate you saying that. We, again, in our teaching, we work a lot with people on exploring their own judgments and assumptions. And I have to say that if I had a dime or a dollar for every time I heard somebody say, those millennials have no work ethic, I could be a pretty wealthy woman right now. And if that's your genuine belief, then you're approaching an employee from a place where they feel that from you. It leaks out. It leaks out. And then you become the supervisor that they quit. You know?
Absolutely.
So it's just to really be careful about our own biases, and there's a reason for all of them. I get that. And is it shooting ourselves in the foot?
And is it not being willing to be open to the idea that people could have different styles of working or different priorities for work? And as boomers, we're coming from a certain place. Oh, you're not a boomer. I am. Oh, you are? Are you on the edge of it? Okay. So I really think the whole boomer millennial thing and those poor Gen Xers in the middle, nobody even talks about them. So we want to talk also, thinking about when you're going to have mentors, there's some do's and don'ts that I'm going to cover in a minute. But you really want to think about the fact that being a mentor is not easy. Being the person who's leading new employees, it's stressful, and it's a lot of additional work, and that we want to really create a place where those mentors have a chance to succeed right along with the new employees having a chance to succeed. And if you think about it, a mentor gives that new employee a grounding. It gives them literally someone to hang on to in an organization that they don't even understand what that organization is yet. You know, we talk about all these relationships. That new employee, they were looking around like, who are these people? Even though you all show up on the first day and tell them who you are. And I think that's beautiful. It's a good thing. It's welcoming. And yet, that person often is not really clear how things fit together or where they fit in the big scheme of things. So relationships are critical. In a mentoring program, that new employee is paired immediately with a mentor. And the mentor is a person who is not been selected, well, they've been selected, but they are a person who has willingly volunteered to become a mentor. And then at that point, they go through a process. The mentor is there to build that immediate and ongoing relationship. And what I think is amazing, the mentor's job is both to let the new employee know where they are and how they fit in the organization, as well as demonstrating person-directed resident care. They're literally living it and demonstrating it for that new employee, so the employee gets a really clear picture about what are your values as an organization. So think about it. The mentor is critical to living the values of your organization for that new employee. We know that mentorship programs improve retention by as much as 50%, and that's crazy. So these are just some do's and don'ts. Everyone should have a shot at being a mentor. You want to do education about it. You want to post it. You want to have very specific mentor training at PHI. We do a lot around communication skills, around supporting team, about being able to give feedback. We want to make sure that the person who's a mentor has an opportunity to earn more money. It becomes a career ladder or a career path for success, to be able to grow within that organization. And we want to make sure that that mentor is with that employee on the assignment that the employee will have. And that's often what you do is you put the new employee with the mentor on their assignment. And I know that we want to do consistent assignments, I get that, but actually to really set a new person up for success, if they can be on the assignment that they're going to have and the mentor comes to them, think about that. They're building this relationship with residents, with the other team members they're going to be working with, and so that's important. You need to have enough mentors to be able to support the people you hire. You have to have them on daytime and nighttime and evening time, maybe more than one preferably, so you have a lot of flexibility. And then you can see some of the things that you don't want to do. If you walk around just saying, Stephanie, you're the one who's going to be the mentor, you've eliminated the chance for it to truly be an empowered position and for people to feel like they have an option at it. The other thing I want to talk about before I hand it back to Sue is this. just really think about what are all the, besides being a peer mentor, what are the other ways in which in your organization people can really advance, have opportunities for job growth. And so some of those things, a memory support specialist, palliative care, restorative aid, being a peer mentor, and there's more. I mean, think about how wonderful it would be to have a group of people who all become more knowledgeable, more skillful, more supportive, and have real content knowledge. So when you think about peer mentoring, it's a type of career path, but not the only career path. And the more opportunities people have to grow, the more likely they are to be able to want to stay.
Awesome.
I feel like we're covering
Whew, it's a race, it's a race. So we only have about 15 minutes left, so all of the slides that we have are available for you to download. So I'm gonna just kind of skip all of the rest of them. And this is how we go. Anna and I just flex in the moment. And what I'd like to do is just ask you guys, is there a favorite question that you ask when you're doing an employee interview? Is there one that just has been so meaningful for you that you would like to share with others here? Yes.
Describe 3 words of your coworker. Describe about you.
So what would your coworkers say about you? Okay,
3
three words that your coworkers would use to describe you. It's a great question. It's a great question. Okay? Others, yes, I'm coming.
The one I used was, what does home mean to you?
Oh, that's a deep question.
And then from there, frequently you'd have to ask, well, who's there? Well, what's going on? Or what are you doing? And, but that was a good springboard for us.
Absolutely. And home means a lot of things to a lot of people, and we need to be open to that, right? And the diversity is part of what makes a community a community. So you can really learn a lot about a person by asking that question.
Just caution that, because you can't ask about children and how many kids do you have. I mean, if they volunteer it, but you got to be a little careful there.
Sure. So you don't want to be intrusive, right? You don't want to be intrusive, but I do find that if you ask open questions like, what does home mean to you? Somebody who is a parent is likely to say, home is family, right? Or something like that, and you may begin to get more information in that way.
I will ask them, what does resident-directed care mean to you? And I can tell when they've had absolutely no exposure because they tell me it means, well, getting them their bath and helping them get dressed. So then I have to educate them on what it means to us and what our philosophy is, because our philosophy is totally away from that.
Gotcha. So again, that's a great question. And if it's clear the person doesn't know, and then you explain to them, you say, so how does that sound to you? How do you feel about that? Somebody might say, oh, geez, I don't know about that. And another person might be, wow, that sounds really wonderful. That's the way it should be, right? So it's just, again, another way to keep that conversation going and explore, what that person's openness is. Yes?
I would ask people what skill set they feel they need to improve on, or do some self-reflection and tell me where they struggle in their job.
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question, and you don't want to lead off with it. Right? So you want to have built, I know you wouldn't, I just want to name that. That's the kind of question that you want to build safety before you ask. You want that person feeling comfortable with you before you go to that place. Otherwise, it's a little bit intimidating. But when you talk about that pioneer value of practice self-examination, if a person is tuned in to their growth edge, that's a beautiful quality for a person to have. None of us are perfect beings. We all have a growth edge. That is a great, great question. Others? Yes.
What kind of knowledge do you have around dementia? What training have you received? What do you know about dementia?
Okay. So you probably have a lot of individuals living with the symptoms of dementia in your organization, so that would be obviously something that would be important to you. Sometimes people do have experience with somebody with dementia, and sometimes they don't. I'm curious how you navigate it when somebody says they don't have experience.
It gives me an idea of what they know, their basic care knowledge when it comes to person.
So it's like what you would need to teach them, then you have a sense. So again, remember, we can build skill, right? We can train for skill, and understanding dementia is one of those skills that we can train for. Anna actually does quite a bit of beautiful education in that area. Other questions that you are really happy with?
At the end of the interview, I always ask them why they feel that I should pick them over someone else to be a part of our team and our family to take care of the people that we love and care about.
Ooh, I like that. I like the way you worded that entire sentence. Just expressing that you are a family, expressing the community, the specialness that you have within your organization, and why should I pick you over somebody else? That is a good question. You may have somebody say, well, gosh, that's a good question. I really don't know how to answer it. I hope you pick me. Somebody who's really humble might have a hard time answering that question. And other people might say, oh, well, I'm really good with people, or I'm really, I'm very compassionate, and whatever that case may be. That's a great question. Others that you want to add? Yes.
I'd like to ask, what qualities do you have as a care provider or care worker that sets you apart from others?
Excellent. It's getting at a similar thing. What qualities do you have that sets you apart from others as a caregiver? So we have 2 care partners in the room, and I am going to ask you, what do you think we should ask if you were interviewing a new worker? I'm putting you totally on the spot here. So if you were going to interview a new employee, what do you want to ask? Elise?
Yeah, I guess I would ask them how they work with, how they do with team members, how they do working as a team, what team means to them.
What does team mean to you? Nice. That is a good question. That is a good question. And when I asked her this morning if there was one thing she could improve, if one change she could make in her organization, what would it be? She said better teamwork. So this is a woman who knows what she's looking for. How about you, Daphne? Anything that comes to your mind that you would want to ask?
Well, ask them how long they've been working with people.
Okay.
And like she said, teamwork.
So in that same area, how are you in working with other people, or trying to get a sense if this is somebody that really likes to work by themselves, right? That's great. That's really helpful. Really helpful. Thank you both. Anybody want to share a particular practice that you have, that you're engaging in recruitment, that you're really seeing some good results from, that you'd like to share? Yes.
Just something that happens is when employees come to the nursing office to interview, they sit out front by my secretaries. And it's amazing what information the secretaries can provide you after you finish the interview about how they interacted with them, how they responded, what they were saying on their telephone, those kind of things.
Nice. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay?
Anything else?
Other practices you have that you'd like to share?
We generally, after the team has done the interview, will pass the individual off to another member of the leadership team who has not had any interaction with this person, and then they take them to the resident areas. And then in the resident areas, they make sure that a direct care staff member speaks with the individual and does their own kind of quasi-interview as they give them a tour.
Nice.
Nice. So I find that when we tour people, I pay a lot of attention to that in the tour. Do they say hi to the residents when you're walking around the building?
Make eye contact.
Do they make eye contact? Do they reach out and touch any of the residents? You know, it's not a deal breaker necessarily if they don't, but it's something I'm watching. It's something I'm paying attention to, right?
And I know we're out of time, and I thank you so much, but I really want to end with one last thing, and that is, we really didn't talk today about something really important to us at PHI, which is our coaching approach to supervision. And I want to just put it out there. We have a lot of stuff on our website about it, and everything we said, we stand behind today, and without leadership, really moving to a level of high belief in the people who work in their organization. Our definition of coaching supervision is it's a relational approach to supporting workers and teams to critically think, to problem solve, to communicate effectively, to literally be accountable and own their own work. And you do that through high belief. And so I want to say, I think without that, all the rest of it can't reach the heights that it could reach. And if you want more information about that, we've got videos and everything up on our website that really demonstrate exactly what we're talking about. So thank you so much.
you.
Have
Thank
a
you,
great rest of the
everybody.
conference. Thank you.